Uriel. The name itself is like a whisper in the fire, known by few, remembered by even fewer. And yet behind that name lies a story so powerful, so hidden, it trembles at the edge of revelation. Have you ever wondered why some angels are celebrated in stained glass and sermons, while others are veiled in silence? While Michael drew his sword and Gabriel sounded his trumpet, one angel received no song, no glory, only an order: descend. This is not the tale of heaven's warriors or messengers. This is the forgotten path of the angel of judgment, the flame that did not comfort but consumed. His name is Uriel. And today we will uncover what the world tried to forget, because in the end, it's not always the light that saves. Sometimes, it's the fire that judges. In this video, you'll learn about the Book of Enoch, the fallen watchers, the 7 flaming seals, and the mysterious connection between Uriel and the angel of revelation, holding the key to the bottomless pit. But before we go deeper, let me ask you, what if the silence is not absence, but warning? What if Uriel has already returned? Stay with me, because what you're about to hear may change the way you see heaven, hell, and judgment forever. They rarely speak of him in churches. You'll find stained glass windows of Michael, his sword raised high against the dragon. You'll hear preachers thunder the name of Gabriel, the herald of miracles and annunciations. Raphael is known as the healer, the gentle one who walks with the broken. But Uriel, his name is barely whispered. And yet, he was there from the beginning. Uriel, whose name means fire of God, stood at the edge of the first sunrise. When light broke through the void, he was there, not to announce it like Gabriel or defend it like Michael, but to witness it in silence. A flame that watched, a flame that remembered. In the ancient texts, the ones they don't read on Sunday mornings, Uriel is not forgotten because he lacked power. He is forgotten because of what he was sent to do. Uriel is the angel of judgment, not the judgment we like to hear about, comforting justice, restoration, second chances. No, Uriel carries a fire that does not warm. He is not the candle in the dark. He is the wildfire that cleanses everything impure. Think about this. In the Book of Enoch, one of the earliest Jewish texts that paints vivid images of heaven and the rebellion of angels, Uriel is mentioned as one of the 4 archangels. He is the one sent to warn Noah about the coming flood, to reveal secrets hidden from mankind, and to oversee the punishment of the fallen watchers, those 200 angels who descended to earth and corrupted it with forbidden knowledge. And that's where the story turns. Because while we celebrate the angels who bring good news, we often ignore the ones who bring hard truth. Uriel's flame wasn't meant to illuminate, it was meant to expose, to pierce through the lies, to burn away everything false. Imagine standing in a room filled with people who only want applause, and you're the one sent to declare judgment. Imagine being asked to cast light where everyone prefers shadows. That was Uriel's calling. And it wasn't glorious. He didn't receive songs. He didn't return with victory parades. He was sent down, not up, not into heaven's courts, but into the very depths of the bottomless pit, into the prison of the watchers. Not to speak, but to seal. Not to question, but to obey. And that's why his name began to fade. Some say the early church deliberately left him out of the canon, uncomfortable with the severity of his mission. Others say his silence was too unsettling, his justice too final. After all, who wants to remember the angel who comes not to save but to sentence? But if you look closely, Uriel never left. His fire is in the storm that breaks the idols. His presence is in the quiet justice that no one notices until it's done. I remember once in a small town in the southern US, a preacher shared something strange with me. He'd been a chaplain at a prison. One of the inmates, convicted of unspeakable crimes, claimed to see a man of fire at night. Not speaking, just standing, watching, no comfort. Just a sense that the moment of reckoning had arrived. The preacher shrugged it off at the time, called it hallucination. But years later, when reading the Book of Enoch, he found that image again. A fiery watcher, a silent executor, and the name came back to him, Uriel. He wept. Sometimes the most powerful presences are the ones that don't need to speak. Here's a truth we often forget. Not every act of God is meant to feel good. Some are meant to be faithful, some are meant to be final, and Uriel reminds us of that. You see, justice isn't about emotion, it's about alignment, bringing things back into divine order, and that's what Uriel does. He burns what must be burned. He seals what must not rise again. He remembers what heaven refuses to forget. And here lies the lesson. If you follow the light, there will be moments when you are called not to comfort, but to confront, not to be applauded, but to be faithful. Uriel's story is not just about divine missions, it's about obedience when no one is watching. About staying true even when your name is erased. In modern faith, we celebrate the callings that bring visibility, preaching, leading, performing miracles. But there are quiet callings too. The kind that don't go viral, the kind that don't end in applause, the kind that cost you everything and earn you nothing, except heaven's silence and heaven's trust. That's the kind of calling Uriel answered. And perhaps you know that calling too. Maybe you're the one in your family who holds the line when no one else will. The one who keeps the faith when others laugh. The one who speaks the truth and is met with silence. Take heart. Because Uriel walked that path first. He bore the burden of fire, not to shine, but to purify. And purification is always painful before it becomes holy. So when you feel forgotten, unseen, silenced, remember the angel who walked alone into the pit, not because he fell, but because he was sent. Not because he failed, but because he fulfilled. And even now his flame burns. In the scriptures that remain hidden, in the forgotten corridors of judgment, in the restless stirrings of the spiritual world. And in this moment, as we speak his name again, Uriel, something ancient awakens, a memory, a warning, a whisper of justice still to come. Because if Uriel was sent to seal the abyss, what happens when he returns with the key to open it? Stay with me, because the descent was only the beginning. In the next part, we follow Uriel down into the heart of the pit, to a realm where the watchers wait, where judgment is not delayed, and where the fire speaks louder than any trumpet ever could. They were never meant to fall. The watchers were once glorious beings, angels stationed between the realms, observers of mankind. They were not warriors like Michael, nor messengers like Gabriel. They were sent to watch, to guide without interference, to bear witness as humanity grew in the garden of the earth. But something changed. In the Book of Enoch, it is written that 200 of these heavenly beings gazed upon the daughters of men and were overcome. Desire led to decision, and decision led to downfall. They descended not by command, but by choice. They took wives for themselves. They taught humans forbidden things, how to make weapons, how to conjure spirits, how to manipulate creation. Sorcery, war, vanity, lust. These were not born of man alone. They were taught. What was once beautiful became corrupted. The Nephilim were born. Giant hybrids, monstrous, fierce, and without souls that could be saved. The balance was broken. The Watchers had defiled heaven's trust. They did not simply fall from grace. They tore grace apart and handed its ashes to mankind, and so came the flood. A divine reset, but not before justice was set into motion. Someone had to deal with the Watchers. Someone had to go where no angel had gone before, not to fight, but to seal. Uriel was chosen. The others may have been too noble to refuse, too glorious to descend. But Uriel, he obeyed. He bore no trumpet. He wore no crown. Only flame, only command. He stood before the Watchers, now deformed by their rebellion, their once radiant forms now covered in spiritual scales, mutated remnants of light. They still carried echoes of glory, which made their corruption all the more terrifying. And among them stood Semjaza, the first to rebel, the one who whispered the original plan. Uriel did not plead, not. He did not offer forgiveness. He raised his hand, and the first of the 7 flaming seals blazed into being, a sun in miniature, forged by the will of the Most High. It did not simply imprison Semjaza. It silenced him. When the seal touched his chest, it broke his voice from creation. His memories, his pride, even the echoes of his rebellion, were burned and buried beneath layers of divine light. And the others ran, not with feet, but with spirit, fleeing like smoke in the wind. But who can escape a fire sent by God? One by one, Uriel sealed them, without hesitation, without comfort, no mercy. Only mission. Here's a truth modern theology often forgets. Not all angels minister. Some execute. And in this story, we see that justice is not always loud. It can be methodical, precise, and utterly silent. You might ask, but why couldn't they be forgiven? Because some choices carry a weight that echoes through dimensions. The Watchers didn't merely sin. They rewrote the script of mankind's suffering. They bypassed heaven's order and opened doors meant to remain shut. They blurred the line between heaven and hell. Uriel didn't come to close those doors gently. He came to seal them forever. Let that sink in. Sometimes the greatest act of love is a boundary that cannot be crossed again. That's what the Watchers needed. That's what Uriel gave. And perhaps that's what the world needs once more. Because in a time when knowledge is everywhere, but wisdom is nowhere, when power is pursued without conscience, when the sacred is mocked and the profane is celebrated, the spirit of the Watchers still lingers. But so does the flame, so does Uriel. And the seals, though old, are not forgotten. Let's keep walking, because the descent was not finished. One final face awaited Uriel in the shadows. And it wasn't a stranger. It was someone he once called brother. The darkness in the abyss was not like the absence of light. It was the presence of something ancient, something that remembered when God said, "Let there be," and rejected it. As Uriel walked deeper, the walls of the pit were not made of rock, but of voices, cries from long before the flood, laments of beings who had once shone brighter than stars. The bottomless pit wasn't just a prison, it was a memory made manifest. And there, in the deepest part, stood one more. He wasn't like the others. His face was not grotesque, not disfigured beyond recognition. No, he still bore the trace of heaven's glow, and that made it worse. Uriel stopped. This was no stranger. This was a brother. They had walked together through the first rays of light. They had heard the creation song as the galaxies were born. They had stood near the throne when the decrees of eternity were first spoken. But now they stood on opposite sides of judgment. The fallen brother said nothing. He didn't plead. He only looked. and Uriel felt something break inside him. He raised his final seal, not as a warrior, not even as a judge, but as one who carries unbearable sorrow. Because sometimes doing God's will hurts, and sometimes obedience is not triumph, it is grief. The seal ignited like a silent sunrise. No words, no anger, just light. And in that light, the face of his brother was no more. But something in Uriel died with that seal. When it was done, the abyss trembled, not from the cries of the fallen, but from the weight of heaven's silence. The mission was complete. But Uriel had changed. He was not broken, he was burned. There's a moment in every believer's life where the path forward is clear, but not easy. Where you must do what is right, not what is popular. Where you must walk alone into dark places, not to be seen, but to be faithful. That's what Uriel teaches us. He didn't descend because he was weak. He descended because he was willing. And that fire, the one that judged the watchers, the one that seared the silence, it still burns. Not in rage, but in truth, because there are things in this world that still need sealing. There are lies that need burning. There are voices of rebellion that still echo in hidden places. And Uriel, he has not forgotten. The seals may be ancient, but they are not broken. Yet. But what happens when they are? What if Uriel returns, not with seals this time, but with the key? What if Revelation 9 is not a prophecy for another age, but a whisper for ours? The story doesn't end in the abyss. It begins again when the seal is removed. And we may be standing closer to that moment than we think. Stay with me. Because next, we'll confront the possibility that the angel descending in Revelation, the one cloaked in smoke and fire, holding the key to the pit, is not a stranger at all, but Uriel. And if that's true, judgment has already begun. Uriel's descent had not been one of haste. Every step downward had been deliberate, measured, not because of reluctance, but because of reverence. And now, after sealing giants and rebels, after walking through screams and silence, he stood before one last soul. He paused, because this one was different. This fallen one didn't growl, he didn't resist, he didn't beg. He simply looked, with eyes that remembered. And in those eyes, Uriel saw the reflection of a past too painful to forget. They had once stood together before the throne. They had spoken the name of God in unity. They had marveled at the birth of stars. This was not merely an enemy. This was a friend. Uriel had no words. Angels do not cry as men do, but something eternal within him ached. He lifted the final seal, crafted not of wax or ink, but of compressed divine light. A light that knew who it touched, a light that did not destroy the soul, but revealed its true shape and judged it accordingly. And in that moment, the silence was louder than thunder. The seal descended, not like a sword, but like a tombstone. It landed not on a criminal, but on a memory. And as it burned into place, Uriel felt something tear inside him, not flesh, but purpose. For in sealing a brother, he sealed a piece of himself. Obedience costs. Sometimes we think holiness is clean, noble, triumphant, but often it's scarred, burdened, and silent. To walk in God's will is to carry out assignments that might never be celebrated, to do what no one else wants to do, to finish what others were afraid to start. Uriel did not return with medals. He didn't leave the pit with applause. He left carrying ashes, ashes of memories, of relationships, of once radiant beings now entombed in divine silence. When he finally turned from the last seal, the pit shook, not because of rebellion, but because of resolution. Justice had been completed, but Uriel was no longer the same. He had entered as a messenger. He left as a monument to obedience, to sacrifice, to the kind of faith that acts without needing to feel. And isn't that what we're often called to? To do the right thing when no one thanks you, to forgive when it's not reciprocated, to speak the truth when it costs you everything? Uriel's story teaches us that sometimes fulfilling God's will doesn't feel like triumph. It feels like loss. But heaven sees, heaven knows, and what man forgets, eternity remembers. As he walked away from the pit, each step carried more than gravity. It carried memory, not of victory, but of obedience. He bore no trumpets, only silence. And sometimes, silence is the loudest sound in heaven. You would think that heaven rejoices when its will is done, that the gates swing open, that the choirs begin to sing, that the streets of gold echo with joy at a mission completed. But when Uriel returned, the sky was still, not in reverence, but in reluctance. Raphael stood at a distance, his eyes lowered. Gabriel turned his face away, and Michael, the warrior of the Most High, kept his hand on his sword, not in hostility, but in uncertainty. Uriel stood before them, not as he left. He no longer glowed with untouched light. He bore a different radiance now, one shaped by fire and silence. He carried something they didn't understand, the weight of a mission no one else dared to carry. He had gone where others would not. He had seen what others should never see. And now, they couldn't look him in the eye, because righteousness, true righteousness, is often misunderstood. It doesn't always look clean. Sometimes it looks haunted. Uriel said nothing, and neither did they. The silence wasn't rejection, it was reverence without understanding. Sometimes the cost of obedience is isolation. Have you ever done the right thing and lost friends for it? Have you ever stood up for truth and felt the sting of being alone? Uriel knows that feeling. He didn't return to the choirs. He didn't take his seat among the courts. Instead, he stood alone, somewhere between heaven and hell, between light and darkness, a sentinel on the edge of eternity. And as time passed, something strange happened. His name began to disappear, first from conversation, then from scripture, then from memory, but not because he failed, because he frightened us. Uriel doesn't comfort, he convicts. He doesn't bless your plans, he confronts your compromises. And in a world where we want angels with soft wings and sweeter words, Uriel is the reminder that some fire is not for warmth, but for judgment. That's why his story was hidden, because we are more comfortable with Gabriel's messages and Michael's victories. But Uriel reminds us that even angels bleed when they obey. And yet, he obeyed. Even now, as his name fades from lips and his figure vanishes from stained glass, he stands guard at the edge of the abyss, waiting, watching, not to protect heaven, but to make sure what was sealed stays sealed. And maybe, just maybe, to return when it must be unsealed. But that's for later. For now, remember this. Obedience to God may leave you lonely, misunderstood, forgotten, but it will never leave you unworthy. Uriel's story isn't over, and neither is the judgment, because one day the seals will break. And Uriel may walk the earth again. In the next part, we'll uncover what Revelation meant when it spoke of an angel descending from heaven with the key to the bottomless pit. Was it a new angel? Or was it the flame that once sealed it, returning to open it? Let us continue. Time passed, but not for Uriel. The other angels returned to their realms, their duties, their praise. Choirs rose. Missions continued. Glory flowed as it always had. But Uriel, he remained. He did not go back to the heavenly courts. He did not stand again among the cherubim or seraphim. He did not return to the songs of praise or the proclamations of prophecy. He stayed between the worlds, a watchman at the threshold of eternity, standing where the abyss meets the boundary of light. Why? Because judgment never rests. It watches. It waits. And slowly something more chilling happened. His name began to disappear. Not from sin, not from failure, but from fear. First, it was unspoken in angelic conversation. Then, it vanished from the writings of men. The early church, struggling to define hope in terms men could digest, began to edit which truths were palatable. Uriel, flame-bearer of divine wrath, did not make the final cut, and so he was erased. From stained glass windows, from altar sermons, from Sunday school books, until only the Apocrypha and the Book of Enoch whispered his name, and even those some chose to hide. But why? Why would heaven allow the memory of a faithful servant to fade? Because Uriel is not the angel of comfort. He is the angel of completion, and mankind has never been ready for finality. We prefer process, we prefer progress. We say we want justice, but we fear judgment. Because justice means someone must pay, and so Uriel became inconvenient, a threat to the theology of cozy faith. His presence didn't inspire devotion, it awakened reverence, holy fear, the kind that says, I must get right before it's too late. But God never forgets what he seals. And even though Uriel's name fell silent on earth, it echoed in realms unseen, in forgotten manuscripts, the Zohar, the Dead Sea Scrolls, the Book of Enoch. His name burned like a coal beneath the ashes. They spoke of a being who guards the gates of hell, one who had seen too much light to be deceived by darkness, one whose eyes burned with judgment, not rage, one who would return, not to warn, but to unlock. The book of Revelation, chapter 9, describes it. And the fifth angel sounded, and I saw a star fall from heaven unto the earth, and to him was given the key to the bottomless pit. A key to the very place Uriel sealed. An angel cloaked in smoke and fire, silent, unnamed, yet moving with divine authority. Some say it's a new angel, one sent only for the end. But what if it's not? What if it's him, the flame that once sealed the pit, now returning to open it? What if silence was never absence, but preparation? Let us go deeper, because if Uriel is returning, he's not coming with warnings, he's coming with a key. 8. The angel with the key. Is Uriel returning to finish what he began? The world has changed. Technology has expanded. Civilizations have evolved, but spiritually something ancient stirs beneath the surface, a shadow we cannot explain. A darkness that no science can define, and a question no scholar can silence. Who holds the key to the abyss? In Revelation 9, we read of a terrifying moment. And he opened the bottomless pit, and there arose smoke out of the pit, and there came out of the smoke locusts upon the earth. But these were no ordinary locusts. These were demonic beings, tormentors, creatures with faces like men, wings like thunder, stingers like scorpions, symbols of a wrath that is both spiritual and unstoppable. They weren't just demons, They were the Watchers, sealed long ago by Uriel himself. So if they're being released, then who is opening the pit? The passage doesn't give the angel's name, but it describes him, cloaked in smoke, burning with fire, earth trembling beneath him. He speaks no words, but his presence shakes the foundations. Sound familiar? It should. That's Uriel, not in his descent to seal, but in his return to unlock. Not because God changed his mind, but because the time has come. Judgment has seasons. Sealing was one. Unsealing is another. Uriel didn't fail. He finished, and now he returns to complete. And this time, there is no negotiation. There is no second warning, no prophet sent ahead, no plagues to signal preparation. Only the key and the judgment it brings. This is why the world isn't ready for Uriel. Because we've been taught to expect salvation, not confrontation. We are conditioned to embrace mercy, but ignore finality. And yet Revelation doesn't end in mercy. It ends in fulfillment. Uriel returns not as a savior, but as a witness that God does not forget. That what he seals, he will one day unseal, and what he judges, he will complete. The Watchers rise. Not to rule again, but to face the second judgment. And Uriel, he is not there to stop them. He is there to make sure it happens exactly as written. His silence will break. His flame will speak. Not with words, but with the roaring fire of divine decree. And in that moment, all who mocked the abyss will remember its depth. All who laughed at holiness will feel its heat. All who twisted scripture for comfort will see that God is not only love, he is justice, because Uriel did not come for followers. He came for fulfillment. He did not come for applause. He came for closure. And when he walks the earth again, perhaps already cloaked among men, he does not come to speak. He comes to complete. So now the question is not, who is Uriel? The question is he already here? And if he is, are we ready for what happens after the seal is broken? Stay close, because in the next chapter, we will explore what it means to live in the days of revealed judgment, not as a prophecy, but as an unfolding reality. Because when Uriel moves, nothing remains hidden, and everything will be set aflame. The judgment that will change everything. The seals are breaking. We are living in the echo of it right now, the time when everything hidden will be revealed, the moment when the hidden truth of the universe is pulled from the depths of darkness and set before us in the blazing light of divine judgment. But there's a catch. This isn't just a symbolic event. This is a spiritual law being enacted. What was sealed in the past must now be unsealed. When Uriel first descended into the abyss, it was not merely to lock away the Watchers, the rebellious angels who defied the divine order. It was not just a punishment. It was a divine mercy, a temporary confinement. A mercy because if they were left to roam free, they would tear apart the fabric of creation. But mercy has an expiration date. In the book of Revelation, Rev 9:1-2, we hear of the moment when the fifth angel sounds his trumpet, and a star, an angel, is given the key to the bottomless pit. He opens it. And from the pit comes smoke, thick, poisonous, dark, filling the earth with torment. This isn't just the unveiling of demonic forces. It's the unveiling of a memory. A memory that was locked away by Uriel's fiery seal. These demons, the very Watchers who had been sealed away. They are the ancient rebellion, the ones who dared to corrupt mankind before the flood. And now, they are being released to do what they were meant to do: destroy. But this time, they will not succeed, because the unsealing is not just about releasing evil, it's about finalizing judgment. As Uriel sealed the abyss with divine flame, so too will he open it with divine authority. And when it opens, the world will witness something terrifying, yet necessary. God's perfect justice is about to be executed, not in whispers or veiled warnings, but in blazing truth. The world is not ready for this. It never has been. The idea of judgment, the final kind, is too much for us. We can handle kindness. We can handle redemption. We can handle grace for a time, but judgment, the kind that is final, irrevocable, unchangeable. That is a truth humanity has long pushed aside. It is easier to believe in salvation without cost than to face the fact that there are actions, choices, and sins that cannot be undone. But the unsealing of the abyss will show us that some things, some consequences, are forever. And yet, even in the judgment, there is still the mercy of God. For those who accept the truth, for those who repent before the abyss opens wide, but for those who refuse, they will feel the weight of Uriel's fire, the one that came to seal the fallen angels and now comes to judge them. Do not think that the breaking of these seals is merely symbolic or far off. We see it in our world today, in the spreading of lies, the corruption of truth, the rise of evil, and the absence of accountability. This unsealing has already begun. We may not see it clearly, but the whispers of judgment are in the air, in the shaking of nations, in the disillusionment of hearts. The key has already turned, and when Uriel walks this earth again, he will not walk alone. 10. The return of the Watcher. When Uriel comes to open the seals, we talk about the end of days, the last judgment, as though it's something far off in the distant future. But what if it's already begun? When you study the book of Revelation, it's easy to imagine the end as some future event, a faraway happening that we can safely distance ourselves from. But the truth is, the moment of unsealing is not just a timeline. It's a spiritual reality that has already started. The Watchers have been sealed for millennia, but with the unsealing, their reign of terror will be unleashed again. Who is this angel with the key? It's Uriel, the one who sealed them away in the first place. And now he returns, not with mercy, but with the key to the abyss. He returns with authority, finality, and complete judgment. Uriel does not come to negotiate. He does not come to beg. He comes to complete what has been written. Revelation speaks of the angel with the key opening the abyss and releasing the smoke that clouds the earth. But think about this. The smoke is not just a symbol of evil. It is the cloud that has covered our understanding, our faith, our very hearts. It is the darkness that has hidden the truth for so long. It is the confusion we feel when we try to understand good and evil. Uriel's task was always to burn that smoke away. When Uriel returns, he will not bring comfort. He will bring clarity. He will bring the end of compromise. There will be no more room for those who ignore God's justice. There will be no more time for those who walk the middle path. And when Uriel comes, he will open the seals. The hidden truths of the universe will be exposed. Nothing will remain covered. For the ones who rejected truth, who lived in darkness, there will be no place to hide. But for the ones who walk in the light, the opening of the seals will be the beginning of vindication. Uriel's return will bring both closure and revelation. The time of judgment will not be long. It will be swift, it will be final, and it will be an answer to every cry for justice that has ever been raised. So the question for us is not when Uriel will come. It is, are we ready for the unsealing? Are we prepared for the truth that will come when the final key is turned? And when the abyss opens wide, will we be found with the seal of God, Or will we stand in the darkness, with no flame to guide us? The time is now. Stay tuned, because next we will dive into the deeper consequences of Uriel's return. When the final seal is broken, how will humanity respond? Will we find ourselves part of the divine reckoning? Or will we stand as witnesses to the destruction of the Watchers and all that they have corrupted? There is more to come. And this truth will not wait. The fire that Uriel brought with him was never meant to warm or comfort. It was meant to reveal, to burn away the falsehoods, to set the stage for what's to come. For centuries his name has been lost, buried beneath the weight of time, forgotten by those who would rather not face the truth of his mission. But as we near the closing chapters of this age, the reality of his presence is becoming clearer. Uriel's flame was not a random act of fury. It was the fire of divine justice, and it was designed to purify the world in a way we could not escape. If we are to truly understand the gravity of this angel's purpose, we must remember that the return of Uriel is not one of mercy, but of fulfillment. As we stand at the crossroads of history, where the seals are being broken, where the ancient boundaries are being tested, Uriel's story is a reminder that some things can never be undone. Just as the Watchers, those rebellious angels who dared to cross the line between heaven and earth, cannot return to their former glory, so too must we face the judgment that awaits all who walk the earth. The abyss has been sealed for so long, but the time is coming when it will be opened again, and Uriel will be the one to unseal it. He will bring forth what has been hidden, revealing the truth that humanity has tried to suppress. But as unsettling as this truth may be, it's also a call to each of us. It's a reminder that the choices we make, the lives we live, and the truths we choose to ignore or embrace matter. Uriel's return doesn't just represent the breaking of seals, it represents the unveiling of all that has been hidden in the darkness of the world. It is a clarion call to embrace the light, to accept the truth of judgment, and to recognize that there is no escaping the divine order that governs all creation. It's not a matter of whether we want to be judged, it's a matter of whether we are prepared to face what will be revealed when the time comes. And yet, we must ask ourselves, what does it mean to be prepared? To be prepared is not just to acknowledge the truth, but to live by it. It's about understanding that divine justice is not something we can hide from. It's not something we can twist or manipulate for our own gain. Just as Uriel walked the silent path of obedience, even when it cost him everything, we too must walk in faith, even when the path is unclear. We must walk with integrity, with righteousness, and with the knowledge that when the final seal is broken, we must stand before the judgment of Uriel, of the fire of God itself, with our hearts laid bare. The world today may be filled with distractions, with people choosing paths of convenience and self-deception. But this message is not for the faint of heart. It is for those who are ready to embrace the full weight of divine truth, who are prepared to stand tall in the light of justice, no matter the cost. Uriel's story is not just an ancient myth. It is a living truth, a constant reminder that while we may choose to ignore justice, justice will not ignore us. As we look at the signs around us, as we witness the unfolding of apocalyptic events, it becomes clear that Uriel's return is imminent. We are living in the days when the abyss will open once more, and the angels who have been waiting in the depths will rise again. This is not something that will happen in some distant future. It is happening now. The key to the abyss is being turned, and with it comes the beginning of the end. It is time to make a choice. But even now, there is hope. For those who seek the truth, for those who embrace the fire of judgment, There is a chance to stand in the light, to be purified, to be redeemed. The opening of the seals, the return of Uriel, may bring about the final reckoning, but it also brings the opportunity to make right what has been broken. It is not too late to stand on the right side of justice, to live in a way that will be pleasing to the one who holds the key to the abyss. It is time for us to examine our lives and ask ourselves, when the fire comes, will we stand with Uriel, or will we be consumed by it? This moment of unsealing is not just about end times, it is about the here and now. The way we live today, the choices we make today, will determine what side of the fire we stand on tomorrow. Let Uriel's return serve as a wake-up call, a reminder that we are called not just to witness history, but to be a part of it. If this video has stirred something within you, if you found yourself contemplating the weight of Uriel's message, I invite you to take action. Like and subscribe to this channel, and join us as we continue to uncover the hidden truths of the Bible. Share this video with others because the world needs to hear these truths, especially now when we are on the verge of the final unsealing. Let's walk together in faith, ready to face the light that Uriel will bring, prepared to stand firm when the judgment comes, and always seeking to be faithful to the divine will. Don't wait until the fire burns everything away. Take a stand now. Embrace the truth of divine justice and share this message with others who need to hear it. Together we can prepare ourselves for the coming days when the seals are finally broken and nothing will be hidden any longer. So if you're ready to stand in the light, to face the truth, and to walk in the fire of God's judgment and justice, like, subscribe, and join us on this journey. We are just beginning to scratch the surface of the truth that will shape the future of humanity. This isn't the end. This is just the beginning of what Uriel will reveal.